Okay, hearing none, we will go ahead and move to item number 2, which is the right-of-way landscape improvement program. And I see Don Bessler and Shelley Seiler approaching. Good evening. The approach. You approach very well. So what do you have for us tonight?
I'm going to get my right book here. Vice Mayor Curzon, council members, I'm Don Bessler. Thank you for the introduction. I'm the Director of Public Works, and with me today is our Deputy Director of Public Works for Traffic Engineering and Operations, Shelley Seiler. We also have Patty I'm getting one presentation ahead of myself. Okay. Stick with that.
She's panicking.
But we do have Patty Hatfick in the audience.
Consolidation of
She won't have any comments about this item.
Very good. All right.
So we're very happy to be here. As you all know, this is an issue that's been kicking around for a long time. It's been championed by Council Member Navarro over many years, and it worked its way through the council committee process, and we're very happy to be here tonight. Shelley is going to walk you through a PowerPoint presentation that is sort of a watered-down version of a couple of presentations that we made to the Neighborhood and Education Committee for Council Members Navarro and Granville. Got a lot of good feedback and input through that process. We had really strong support from the Community Development Department, and I think what we have is an approach that we're pretty comfortable with, and we want to share that with you and where we think we can go with the right-of-way program over the next dozen years or so. So with that, I'll turn it over to Shelley.
Thank you. All right, first just a little bit of background information. We have about 6.2 million square feet of right-of-way under operational control. About 4 million of that is along our arterial roadways, and it represents about 35% of the linear frontage of those arterials. We generally maintain that landscape at a service level 2, which includes a rake and clean on a biweekly basis. The remaining 10.2 million square feet of right-of-way is under regulatory control. And what I mean by that is that it is the responsibility of the adjacent property owner to maintain and invest in that landscape. So in 2010, the city took on a landscape program inventory and assessment, and we looked at the 4 different items identified in your presentation: age, irrigation efficiency, plant condition, and aesthetic value. And each of those areas was given a rating, and then those were averaged to give the areas an average score. The average score of the entire system is at about a 3.78, or actually it was at that in 2010, and that's on a scale of 1 to 8.75. So since then, we've probably seen a little further decline. What this slide represents is a tiered approach to investing in our right-of-ways. We have a Tier A, which would be the highest visual impact, Tier B at a moderate visual impact, and then Tier C at a basic visual impact. And what this slide represents is where we are today. We have very small areas in the city that are at that highest level, a little larger areas that are at the Tier B level, and then the rest of our right-of-ways probably fall at Tier C and even Tier D if there was such a thing. We, on an annual basis, invest less than $5,000 a year in our capital reinvestment and replanting, and we currently have a contract for $360,000 to maintain our landscape at a service level 2, which includes the items identified. So these next few slides present or show some representative conditions of where we are today. On the right-hand side, or the right picture, you can see there's a decent amount of landscape. We've probably lost some, but if you look to the left-hand picture just down the roadway, pretty much all of it has died, and we have not been able to reinvest in that infrastructure and replant anything. These next pictures show, again, just the amount of landscaping that we have left along many of our roadways. This is along Rural Road, and even the deteriorated conditions, some of the aging infrastructure, and just really it emphasizes the need to reinvest. Again, this is a median island adjacent to Guadalupe. No landscape remains, or a very small amount. And then on the right-hand side, you can see where there actually have been more recent plantings, but it doesn't include any ground cover, which really brings it to that next level. Again, some examples of the deferred maintenance and planting. So what this next slide shows is where we would like to take this program in terms of our goal. Again, the tiered approach, Tier A having the highest visual impact, Tier B a moderate visual impact, and then Tier C a basic visual impact. We've also identified some examples of where we see these being implemented. At Tier A at major entry points and major destinations in the city, Tier B along maybe some of the minor entry points and high volume arterial roadways, and then finally Tier C along low volume arterial roadways. So Tier A would have the strongest design intent and the highest level of landscape. We see this fitting into the downtown, major city entry points, and high impact areas like ASU, Rio Salado. Again, it would have a strong design intent. It could have uniform or monoculture planting. It may complement the area architecture, as you can see on the right-hand picture where the palm trees represent that architecture. It could have finished surfaces that range from DG to a hardscape, and it also could include supplemental street furniture. Tier B would be at a moderate design intent, a middle level of the landscape investment, and be included at minor entry points and used on arterial roadways with higher volumes or use. And then finally, Tier C would be the basic design intent and lowest level of landscape, but still meeting the minimum of the code requirement for regulated areas, and that's a minimum of 1 tree for every 30 lineal feet of street frontage, as well as ground cover. And it could include clustered plantings, native materials like rock, stone, or native grasses. So this slide identifies 2 different areas of investment and total costs associated with our approach. On the left-hand side, you'll see the capital investment and the total investment we see in each of the identified tiers over the life of the program and reinvestment. On the right-hand side is the operation and maintenance costs, and these are on a yearly basis. We also have identified $50,000 a year that would be necessary in replanting budget, and as we go along in years, obviously some of that landscaping is going to continue to die or decline, and we would see this budget used to replant those materials. This next slide shows a map of the city, and as I indicated at the beginning of the presentation, we have about 4 million square feet along our arterials that we have directly under our operational control. So what we've done is gone throughout the city and identified the different levels of investment, A, B, and C. And then we've also identified 4 areas for demonstration at the different levels. So a little more information about the demonstration sites. The first and at the highest level would be the Tier A, and we see implementing that on Scottsdale Road north of McKellips, which is a major entry point into the city. Also reinvesting in downtown in the median islands on Mill Avenue between University and Rio Salado Parkway. And then moving on to Tier B, we've identified Broadway Road between I-10 and Priest, and you can also see the associated costs that we've identified as part of that reinvestment. And then finally, Tier C, McClintock Drive, between Baseline Road and Guadalupe Road. So these next slides identify existing conditions and then follow up with sample design ideas that we've taken throughout the community that we feel represent the appropriate tier level. Again, Scottsdale Road, you can see that there is a decent amount of landscaping in the median islands on Scottsdale Road, but some of it is starting to look a little tired, and we see this as an area that we could use for reinvestment. This side represents some sample design ideas. On the right, you can see the art. We could implement, art features, perhaps even at the major entry points, complement our existing entry signs with something in the median islands, and then the landscape that would follow this tier level on the left-hand side. Moving on to Tier B, we've identified Broadway Road, and as you can see, there's basically little landscaping remaining, and it really is an area that's in need of some investment. These pictures identify what we see as maybe appropriate for the Tier B, maybe not the palm trees, but more color in the ground cover and then additional tree plantings. And then finally, Tier C, this would be on McClintock Drive between Baseline and Guadalupe, and again, much of the landscape has died and it needs some attention. So these pictures represent what we see as representative of the Tier C level. And that concludes my presentation. If you have any questions for us, we'd be happy to answer them.
Questions? Shannon?
Yeah, I have a question on the demonstration sites that are listed. You have Mill Avenue from University to Rio Salado down, and I know we've had a lot of discussions about Mill Avenue and the tree plantings types there and that type of thing. And also, still scheduled to get a streetcar going down Mill Avenue, and that will include some construction and some taking of sidewalks and all that type of thing. So I was wondering why we would be choosing to do that area right now, which we get compliments on the ficus trees and landscaping all the time. What were the plans for that area? I wouldn't want to invest in something that we're going to have to tear up in 2 years.
I'd be happy to jump in. Thank you, Councilmember. That's absolutely part of the equation here, but we're thinking more in the center median strips there. They're pretty tired, they're pretty devolved of their landscape. So whether or not it's that amount of money, we're not sure, but we think that there's some investment we can put in the middle islands there that either would be minimally disturbed by the streetcar project, or if it is disturbed, at least we've gone through now in the interim. We're not talking about redoing the ficus or any of the brick areas on the side. So we just like to
Even if it's the center, if we could just make sure that we're working in concert with Metro on that, because some of the proposed stops that the community working group came up with are mid-block. That might include plans for additional crosswalks and that type of things, which would go through medians. You know, I wouldn't want us to,
Sure.
you know, it's just with two major projects going on there, I want to make sure that we don't put the cart before the horse.
Right.
I mean, I like the overall concept. I definitely think we need to kind of definitely put some more money into some of those areas because they do look pretty bad. The one thing that I noticed that, and maybe it was talked about and I just didn't see it anywhere within the discussion is what about the right-of-ways that are going into the neighborhoods? I mean, to me, I just think there's a lot of value there, twofold. I mean, not only for people that are driving through, but I mean, for those homeowners that are coming into their homes to see, I think just an improvement in that area just really might encourage them to reinvest in their home too, just show some pride and some value. I don't know if that was discussed at all or even thought of. I just think that could really go a long way.
Councilmember, that's a great point, and when you think of like the Maple Ash neighborhood and you see some of the things that are happening, that's a great example, I think, of what you're talking about. The reality for this program is so massively been underfunded and deferred maintenance for years that we really focused on the arterials. But your point is well made, and I think, you know, that's something that as we go forward with this program, it certainly can reach out into the neighborhoods. There may be sections of arterials that sort of do what you're talking about, but I think it really is on those neighborhood collectors that you would like to focus.
Well, I think what I've done in just doing homework a little bit is the neighborhoods that actually do have some aesthetic looking type of, you know, art or whatever it may be within their neighborhoods, they've used grants to have that happen. It's not something that the city does automatically, and I think that really, you already have a neighborhood that's pretty vested in their community, in their neighborhood area, so, you know, for some of those areas that may be a little bit more tired and that we're looking for people to reinvest in them, I think it could be just, you know, really a really good value. And I did too, kind of thought the same thing about putting more, using the mill as one of those sites. I had some question marks about, you know, why would we want to do that? It seemed like a fairly highly landscaped area anyway, that, you know, maybe we could find a different site that, you know, we'd be able to get something back from. So that was just kind of my suggestion.
Joel?
Yeah, first of all, thank you. This has been a project that's been kind of like my passion to get going, to get done, and I think we all see it's desperately needed. And I just want to thank staff, putting the time and effort into this, and making sure you give a good presentation and looking into all the details. And I know that the money is going to be the issue, but we need to set the stage, so to speak, to plan ahead to get things rolling and ahead. And to answer kind of a little about Robbins, and I think you're on the track in terms of the investment we want to put into the neighborhoods, but I think we do need to start somewhere on the exterior. And those are the main entryways into the neighborhoods. And I'm hoping that this does get contagious and goes into the neighborhoods, because what we do on the exterior, on the main arterways, and making the presentation of these right-of-ways just really build the character of our areas, our hubs, things that we're trying to entice. That's the investment that we're hopefully get with grants and some other programs to even get inside the neighborhoods, and that's momentum for, you know, all areas of the town. So and putting together